Alright, welcome back to another turn of Operation Schultz. This is going to be the British Commonwealth and Free French for turn 9, July of 1940. Before we get into it, a few bits of housekeeping. Last Japanese turn, Japan did declare war on the British Commonwealth and Free France, and completed a capital ship. So U.S. income tracker is over full production now. Moving forward. Okay. On the German turn, he calculated convoy damage a little bit incorrectly. He gave 2 additional points for these submarines by neglecting the escort modifier, so there should be 2 less damage on this line, but that damage ends up on the Mediterranean line because he didn't give himself the +2 bonus for one of these submarines either. But the change to the bank is nothing at all, and just shifting 2 damage around. So if the Italians declare war and want to convoy raid in the Mediterranean, it'll be relevant then. Also, Germany has Festung Europa complete. They did not place their free fortification and or coastal artillery. They've requested to have a coastal artillery put in Picardy. Alright. And lastly, the Japanese invasion of Hong Kong. He counted a hit for one of these Marines out on a 2, but Hong Kong is a mountainous territory, so that wasn't actually a hit. So we're going to keep rolling from the next round of Hong Kong. I'll have a defender at 2, he'll have 2 Marines at 1, and a fighter at 6 for the next round. Oh, he got the hit, and I didn't. Okay, well, at least it happened by the rules. Okay. And then that fighter that was there is going to be landing in Formosa, as I believe it was supposed to in 5 Stars video. That should be all of the housekeeping. Let's get straight into the tech roll. I'm going to roll for ASW and absolutely hope for the best. Absolutely need this one to hit. 7 or higher. 9, excellent. Alright, perfect. I don't need to change my buys then. Okay, for my buys, for GB, I've got 29 IPPs. I'm purchasing 3 militia, 1 militia upgrade, and 1 AAA. That's 12. And then I'm going to buy a fighter, which brings me up to 22. A heavy cruiser for 5, that brings me up to 27, and then there's 1 more militia that I'm planning on putting in the Pacific. Brings me to 29. So that clears that bank. FEC is finishing their fortification and then buying an infantry and 2 Gurkhas, which clears their bank as well. And Anzac is going to buy an infantry, a militia, and then Lend-Lease an infantry. And that will also clear their bank. Okay, for combat moves, we'll start in the Mediterranean. All 3 of these battleships are coming out of port from Gibraltar, but only 2 of them are continuing into M4. As they enter M4, the submarine from M9 is joining, and then from Suez, the heavy cruiser is joining. The heavy cruiser from the north is joining, and then from Lower Egypt, a colonial infantry and an infantry are boarding a naval transport to the north, and then the colonial infantry and Anzac artillery are boarding the Anzac transport to the south, and they are both entering M4 at the same time as the rest of the GB fleet. So if the Germans want to engage, they have to shoot at everything altogether. Davik does not want to do that. I've already been in contact with him, so we're just gonna keep moving on after that. Okay. Moving on, everything that entered M4 except the submarine is going to go into M2 with the Italians. That's 2 battleships, a heavy cruiser, and 2 loaded naval transports are going to be coming into M12. And then there's already an FEC battleship in that sea zone. Yeah. And at that time also, the units that are in A44, which include both of the destroyers that were on escort, and the light cruiser and submarine, are also entering M2 in case the Italians want to declare war. I have, once again, already gotten confirmation from Davik he does not want to declare war, so we can keep moving. From there, one of the transports, the one that started in the Red Sea, can go no further. 1, 2, 3. So he is going to drop off a declaration of war on the Spanish nationalists. The artillery is going to disembark into into eastern Andalusia. The colonial infantry is going to capture Spanish Morocco, and the transport is going to hang out. Okay, and then the rest of the units in M2 are going to fly or to sail into A44. That includes 3 battleships, a heavy cruiser, 1 loaded naval transport, 1 light cruiser, 2 destroyers, and a submarine. Excellent. Okay. I'm gonna keep these in Africa for now, but I'm gonna put them in A44 when I have the space cleared up, and I won't get confused by where everything's supposed to go. From A44, the naval transport that came from Lower Egypt, the colonial infantry is going to capture Western Andalusia, and the regular infantry is capturing Rio de Oro. More combat. From French Morocco, the airborne is boarding the air transport and flying 1, 2, 3 and attacking Madrid. Joining that combat is going to be the tactical bomber from A44, 1, 2. From Gibraltar, 2 infantry and a mountain infantry are joining the artillery that's attacking eastern Andalusia. And I think... just a few more combats. This British transport in Nova Scotia is going to pick up the 2 infantry from Ottawa, and then sail 1, 2, 3, and disembark one of the infantry, just one, into Basque country. Alright, the other one's going to stay there, and then the rest can be handled in non-combat movements as far as that sea zone is concerned. And then into A21, I'm mapping 2 fighters and a seaplane, and I'm not going to pair any destroyers with them. It's just going to be those 3 aircraft shooting at submarines for free. Okay. Also, technically, another combat move, the fighter that's on A6, the light carrier in A6, is going to go on map officially in A6. I'll make sure I keep a marker for him there. Actually, I'm going to steal the German marker here because these default ones are massive. And then the rest can be non-combat moves. Okay. All the same down here, all the same, all the same. I want to figure out what to do with these submarines. Give me a second, I hadn't thought about those before starting to record. Well, this guy's just gonna raid where he is. In P34. And then this guy, he's not happy at all where he is. He's just gonna come into P60 for now. Yeah. That'll do. Okay, let's go ahead and start rolling some of our combats. I am a little concerned I'm going to forget the rating, so I'm going to go ahead and do that first. Let's find my die. I don't know where to find a D6. So right here. Let's take these 2. I'll use red as the convoy rating GB submarine and black as the convoy. So red has a +2 advantage and does 3 damage. And that takes 3 from the Japanese bank. Right. Now we can move back to battles I care about. Let's do Madrid. Oh, I did forget to declare I'm attacking Bessarabia with the 3 infantry from East Poland. Alright, let's adjudicate Madrid. He's going to get to roll his fighter first. The air superiority round does go first, even if it doesn't have first strike, unless I select the transport as a loss. So, let's roll for the fighter. It's going to hit on a 6 or less, so we're praying for a 7 or higher. Excellent. Okay. Tactical bomber is going to roll 7 or lower. That's a miss. And then the airborne is going to roll at a 2. Miss. Okay, so round 1 did nothing, but I get to press for round 2, and the transport plane survives. I'm gonna roll these 3 die. The fighter will have the yellow, the tactical bomber will have the blue, and I'll use the airborne at 1 in black. That's a hit for the fighter and a miss for everything else. Damn! Alright, I'm gonna take the hit on the airborne, obviously. But I'm not gonna capture the territory, and... I don't want to let that fighter survive. Statistically, I have... one-sixth more pips, but costs 1/11th as much money, or more money, so it's worth it to press. I'm gonna press. And just hope I don't lose anything. Okay. I hope I don't lose anything further. Okay. Miss for the fighter, hit for the tactical bomber. Okay, okay. Good outcome, good outcome. Alright. But he does keep Madrid. Yeah, well, that's why I attacked Basque. Okay. Alright, I think that's the only combat in this area. Anything else is taking things for free. Okay, those will fly back in non-combats. Those are still in Madrid. Okay, excellent, excellent. I'm pleased with that. Okay, let's go with the sub rating, or the sub mapping. I have 2 6s and a 5 attacking. I'll roll... The reds are the fighters, and the light blue is going to be the seaplane. Miss, miss, and miss. Oh well. I had a good round last round with 2 kills. Okay. And then we can do the Polish combat as well. And then we're done with combat. Okay. Okay, so yeah, he has decided that he does want to scramble his fighter into Bessarabia. So we're gonna do... I'm gonna come down here. I have 2 attacking infantry, or 3 attacking infantry versus a militia and a fighter. All misses on my attack, hit on one of his infantry, or on his militia. So I am going to retreat back into eastern Poland after that. The only change is 1 lost British infantry. And then the fighter will return to central Romania. Alright, I do believe that is all of the combats. So let's get into non-combat movements. Alright, let's start with GB. From southern England, well, the aircraft that were in A-21, so the seaplane, the two fighters. One of the fighters is going off map in southern England. The seaplane is going off map into southern England. The other fighter is going off map into A-28. Joining in A-28 is going to be the light carrier from A6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I do believe that's going to be the only aircraft, or the only ships from that set that are going to be going there. Yeah. Additionally, the destroyer in A-17 is joining A-28. Just 2 movement. Yeah. At least joining that group in A-28 is also going to be the FEC battleship, which left port into M2 but never went further east, and then it's moving 1, 2, 3 into A-28. That's those. Alright, these 2 units haven't moved yet. I think I am actually going to let the tactical fighter land back where it started and not move that carrier at all. And then in port in Gibraltar, I'm going to put 2 of the battleships, the 2 remaining battleships, and the light cruiser. So that leaves 2 destroyers, a heavy cruiser, and a submarine. And if I've got the tactical bomber here, I don't need to go back on escort, so I am going to just leave everything else here. So I've got 2 heavy cruisers, 2 destroyers, light carrier, tactical bomber, and submarine out of port in A-44. And then these 2 destroyers in A-20 are going to join the fleet in A-28 as well, off escort. Alright. That should be everything around Spain. Let's do GB Home Islands first. From Scotland, I'm railing a militia to southern England. From northern England, I'm walking to southern England with 1 infantry. And then 1 infantry and 1 militia from southern England are walking into London. Okay. For the ship shuffle that I'm doing, the heavy cruisers coming out of the eastern side of northern England and moving 1, 2, 3, 4, and going in port on the southern side of London. Joining it for that particular trek along the western side of the British Isles is going to be the battle cruiser. 1, 2, 3. there. And then actually, yeah, I am going to do that. And then a coastal defense ship from northern England is also going to move into Scapa Flow. That leaves just one coastal defense ship in the eastern side of northern England. Excellent. Alright, that's what I want. Okay, moving down to Africa from A53. I'm just moving the entire group into A48. That's the destroyer, light carrier, and the fighter, and they're all going to stay on escort except for the fighter. He's on map. From Sierra Leone, the seaplane is flying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from Cape Town to Marine, or the Marine and the infantry are boarding the FEC transport from South Africa. And then they're moving 1, 2, 3, where the transport will go in port, and the 2 infantry class units will disembark into Lower Egypt. Okay. The infantry in Tanganyika is walking down into Rhodesia. And then from Lower Egypt, the heavy cruiser in port to the south is moving 1, 2, 3 into I2. And joining it is going to be the heavy cruiser that was in South Africa for FEC. Okay, that should cover one last GB unit. The medium bomber in Lower Egypt's flying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into Calcutta. Alright, let's move on to FEC non-combats. From Calcutta, the Anzac infantry is railing to Delhi. From Calcutta, the 2 Gurkhas are moving north into Benares. And then all of the FEC infantry that were in Benares are walking into Calcutta. Also, from Ceylon, the infantry is going to cross the narrow crossing to southern India. Alright, and then for Anzac, from New South Wales, 1 militia is marching south into the capital, and then 1 infantry is marching north to replace it. From P72, the naval transport is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, using strategic naval movement to get to Mauritius. The rest of the navy there by Australia is moving 1, 2, 3 eastward into P75. Okay, let's place the buys. Okay, let's do GB first. The one militia and one AAA are going to be built in Cape Town. One militia and one militia upgrade are being built in Gibraltar. The heavy cruiser is being built in London to the south in port. And then the fighter is being built in northern England, and the militia is being built in London. Actually, yeah, that should be all right. Okay, let's place the rest of the buys. The Anzac, Lend-Lease, and infantry to Cameroon. And the rest goes towards the Pacific. The Gurkhas are being placed in Benares. The infantry and the fortification in Calcutta. I'll clean this up before sending the file. I'll make sure the fortification goes all around so it's nice and pretty. Anzac units, the militia is being placed in South Island of New Zealand, and infantry is being placed in Sydney. And then the last militia for GB is placed in the Solomon Islands. Okay, that should be just about everything. Collect the bank. I didn't capture any territory. I did forget that in non-com for the transport plane. So I flew 1, 2, 3. I can't make it to England. I am going to make it back to French Morocco, though. And that'll be pretty good. Good enough, good enough, good enough. Okay, collecting the bank, I have an income of 28 plus the 3 for Suez. So brings me to 31. FEC should get 8 plus 2 for their bonus for 10. Anzac doesn't get their bonus, so they're just stuck at 6. Okay. Moving on to Free France. Very little to do for buys. I'm buying 2 infantry and a militia. And they're going to be placed in French Morocco. Before they're placed, this infantry from Cameroon is going to rail through the river system to French Sudan. Alright, let's call that a turn and then pass off the board to Davik for his next Italian turn. For 5-star and for tactical, I'll go ahead and do the customary unit rundown at the end of every turn. Everyone else, you can go ahead and turn it off. Okay, let's start with Anzac. To the east of Anzac in P75, there's the Anzac light cruiser and destroyer, and then the 2 FEC destroyers. In New Zealand, there's 1 militia per island. Sydney has 5 militia, 1 infantry. New South Wales has 3 militia, 1 infantry. Queensland has 1 militia. And that's everything that ANZAC is roughly responsible for. Moving on to FEC. I did forget about the submarines. So FEC has a coastal submarine in P60. GB has a regular submarine in P34, which just did 3 convoy damage. And then also, I didn't mention the GB militia in the Solomon Islands. Alright, FEC India area. There's nothing in Ceylon anymore. Maharashtra has 1 militia. Southern India has 1 militia, 1 infantry. Delhi has 2 GB infantry, 1 Anzac infantry, 1 GB seaplane. Benares has 4 Gurkhas. Bengal has 1 militia. Calcutta has a completed fortification, a GB medium bomber, 2 FEC colonial infantry, 10 FEC infantry, and 3 FEC militia. Alright. In the Middle East, there is 1 militia in Transjordan, and 1 militia in Aden, and that is it. In Lower Egypt, I have 7 infantry, 1 marines, 1 militia, and then in port to the south is 1 FEC transport. In Nubia is 1 militia. In Belgian Congo is 1 militia. The Free French also have an infantry in Belgian Congo. In Rhodesia, there's a GB infantry. In Cape Town, there's a GB militia, AAA, and seaplane, and an Anzac motor infantry. In I-2, off the coast of Madagascar, there's a GB and an FEC heavy cruiser, and then an FEC naval transport. There's nothing in West Africa, well, I guess Free French units. In Cameroon, there's 2 infantry and 1 militia. In French Sudan, there's 1 militia. Or no, one infantry, not 1 militia in French Sudan. In A48, I have an FEC fighter on map, light carrier on escort, and a GB destroyer on escort. In Rio de Oro, I have 1 GB infantry, and that is now a GB territory. In French or Spanish Morocco, I have 1 GB colonial infantry, and that's captured. In French Morocco, I have a GB transport plane, and then also 2 Free French infantry, 1 Foreign Legion, and 1 Free French militia in French Morocco. Alright, in A44, there's a submarine, 2 heavy cruisers, 2 destroyers, a light carrier, a tactical bomber, a transport, a naval transport, which is actually going to go in port with the rest of the things in Gibraltar. Okay, so no naval transport in A44. And then in Gibraltar, there is 1 militia, 1 infantry, and then in port is a light cruiser, 2 battleships, and a naval transport. In Western Andalusia, there's just 1 colonial infantry. In Eastern Andalusia, there's 2 infantry, a mountain infantry, and an Anzac artillery. In Basque Country, there's 1 GB infantry. Okay, I didn't delete some of these lines. There we go. That was for the battleship to move into A28. Okay, and then in A28 there is a naval transport with an infantry still aboard, 3 destroyers, an FEC battleship, and then a GB light carrier and fighter. In A21, there's still a TBD on escort. In A20, there's 2 French destroyers on escort. Okay, in London, in port is a battle cruiser and 2 heavy cruisers, and on land are 3 militia, 2 infantry. In southern England, I have a fighter, 5 militia, and 2 infantry. In northern England, I have a fighter. Also in southern England is a seaplane, and also in northern England is a coastal defense ship in port to the east. In Scotland, I have just ships in port to the north, a coastal defense ship, a light cruiser, and another coastal defense ship. In A6 is a fighter on maritime air patrol. And in East Poland, there are 2 infantry, and in Lubelski, there are 2 militia. And I believe that covers everything. I reckon so. Alright, so I guess before I pass the board over, these territories are now no longer Spanish, but German. And these units are no longer Spanish, but German. And then I can pass the board state off to Davik for his Italian turn. Okay, so I have heavy cruiser and transport. Do the Germans have a heavy cruiser? I don't think they do. Nope. There should be one on the build chart, though, maybe. Nope, I'm just wrong. Okay, okay, and then there's a German infantry, medium tank, and 2 mountains. That's a militia, not an infantry in Balearic. Where's the mountain infantry? Did Germany kill their mountain infantry? No, it's in Romania. Okay. Alright, that does it. And I'll pass the board off to David. Best of luck.